For years, Trump has tried to act like he was a monarch, but the indictment that he got the other day shows that he's not the king. Even though he tries to act like it, but he's not. Now, Trump was just another example of a squatter acting acting as if he was king by just another name. A Manhattan grand jury had voted to indict former squatter Donald Trump on March 30th, 2023, for his role in paying hush money to former porn star Stormy Daniels. Um, Trump lawyer Joe Tacopino had confirmed the indictment, and Joe Tacopino is a fucking idiot anyway. Um, so he works perfectly well with Trump then because they're both fucking idiots. The New York Times reported that it's not yet clear what the exact charges Trump will be facing is, but a formal indictment will likely be issued in the next couple days. The Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg, is the first prosecutor ever to issue an indictment against a former squatter. Now, Trump is still the center of several oncoming investigations regarding other criminal activity, including ones while he was in office, like squatting in the White House. Now, American history is rife with presidents and a squatter who have used their office to extend executive authority. Presidents and squatters are not kings. George Washington once reflected on this distinction, saying that he'd rather be on his farm than be an emperor to the world. Now, American politics and the presidency scholars, including me, have long worried about the idea of an imperial presidency or squatting, meaning that a president or squatter who tries to exert a level of control beyond what the Constitution spells out for them. Now, Trump was just another example of a squatter acting as if he was king by another name, like as I had stated earlier. Now, expanding the role of the presidency or squatting, while some early presidents and squatter, notably Andrew Jackson and Abraham Lincoln, they both expanded the executive branch, and most of them were constrained by the dominance of the legislative branch in their day. Now, the growth of the executive branch in terms of size and power began in earnest during the 20th century. Franklin Roosevelt had attempted to pack the Supreme Court to overcome opposition to his New Deal legislation, which is a series of public works and spending projects back in the 1930s. Roosevelt wanted to add a Supreme Court justice for every existing judge in the court who did not retire by the age of 70, but it was a transparent attempt to alter the court's composition to favor his agenda, and the Senate shot it down. Richard Nixon decided to impound money authorized for programs simply because he disagreed with them. Nixon had voted to veto the federal Water Pollution Control Act amendments of 1972, but that was overridden by Congress. He still withheld money, which eventually culminated in the 1975 Supreme Court case, in which the court ruled against Nixon. Other presidents or squatter tried to unduly influence more mundane aspects of life. Back in August of 1906, for example, Theodore Roosevelt issued an executive order forcing the government printing office to begin using the new spellings of 300 words, including although and fixed, in order to simplify them. Now, following the broad public criticism of this plan, Congress voted to reject these proposed spelling improvements back in 1906. Now, let's talk about Trump's term. Trump's actions and words throughout his squatting also suggest that he believed the office gave him overarching power, which it did not. For example, Trump reflected on his power over states to force them to reopen during the COVID-19 crisis, saying that back in April of 2020, that when you're squatter of the United States, the authority is total. No, it's not. But the governors actually maintained the control over what remained open or closed in their states during the pandemic. Trump also treated the independent judiciary as an inferior branch of government that was subject to his control, which it's not his control to control it. If it's the judges I appointed, they're going to decide. Trump set up his potential judicial appointments in 2016. Now, Chief Justice John Roberts rejected Trump's view on this issue in 2018, saying, "We do not have Obama judges, and we do not have Trump judges. We do not have Bush judges or Clinton judges. And what we have is an extraordinary group of dedicated judges doing their level-headed best to do equal right to those appearing before them." Now let's get to the classified part. There is a rigorous procedure when it comes to presidents or squatters deciding to classify information. This complex process involves all classified material being reviewed by the appropriate government agencies and experts at the National Archives. Trump claimed at one point that the documents he took home were already declassified, which they were not. He later asserted that there doesn't have to be a process. Yes, there is. There has to be a process. As I understand it, you're the Squadron of the United States. You can declassify by just saying it's declassified. No, that's not how it works. And you cannot declassify it with your mind, no matter what. Now, these comments help substantiate Trump's belief in his absolute authority. There are specific procedures in place to manage declassification that does not involve psychic powers. Now there is one superpower that the Squatter or presidents do have. If the American presidents or Squatter have one superpower, it's the power of pardoning people. The American presidents or Squatter can pardon people, and the legislative and judiciary branches cannot prevent it. Now, past presidents and Squatters have used pardons largely in the service of justice, but at times they also use it to reward personal friends or connections. Now, Trump doesn't really have any friends. He has sycophants. Now, Trump took it even further, using this power seemingly as a way to reward his loyal sycophants, and says that he would seriously consider pardoning the January 6, 2021 Klan insurrectionists if he is reelected as Squatter. Now, Trump also apparently considered granting himself a pardon as a way to avoid any prosecution for his involvement in the Klan attack. Now, a self-pardon would potentially place any Squatter or president in any constitutional murky water. A 1919 Supreme Court ruling declared that a pardon carries an imputation of guilt and acceptance of a confession of it. So, if Trump pardoned himself for anything, he would have admitted to committing a crime, for which he could still potentially be impeached or investigated by any applicable state law, which is not covered by a presidential or Squatteral pardon. Now, since leaving office, Trump has attempted to claim post-Squatteral executive privilege, which he does not have, which is independent of the current administration, but President Joe Biden, who must first give Trump this privilege, never extended it to his predecessor. Now, Trump's defense says that he was allowed to store classified documents at Mar-a-Lago as a result of executive privilege, and largely it's been unsuccessful in the courts because he did not have executive privilege, and he did not declassify these documents. Now, Trump has also used his time as Squatter to avoid any lawsuits that have emerged after he left. In January of 2023, a federal judge shot down Trump's attempt to dismiss a 2022 defamation lawsuit that was filed by the writer E. Jean Carroll, who says that Trump raped her back in the 1990s, and Trump denied the rape in 2019. Now, in court, Trump argued that anything he said as Squatter should be protected, which it's not, and that he should be given immunity during that period, which he does not deserve. Now, though a ruling is still pending, Carroll has argued in court that immunity would only apply if Trump were referring to Squatteral matters and not personal ones. Now everyone is held to the same rules, no matter what political thing that you reside in. American Squatters and presidents have served a limited amount of time governing before they return to the general population ranks. Now, those privileged enough to hold the top office in the U.S. are still citizens, and they are held to the same laws as everyone else, and the founders believed should not be held above them. Now, throughout history, many presidents and Squatters have pushed the boundaries of power for their own personal preference or political gain. Now, however, Americans do have the right to push back and hold these leaders accountable to the country's laws. Now, presidents and Squatters have never been monarchs. If they ever act in that manner, I believe that the people have to remind them of who they are and who they serve. Yeah, so Trump is not a fucking monarch. He's not a fucking king. He tries to act like it, and that's one of the reasons why he lost too, because people didn't want to have to deal with this bullshit. So if you like the video, you can give the video a like and subscribe to my channel, RBW King. You can also hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when a new video comes out. And if you want to support my work, if you want to support my work, you can comment on the video. So you can leave a comment, let me know what you think. And if you want to support the work even further, you can donate to my Patreon link, which you can find in the About section of YouTube. And for just a little as a few bucks a day, a few bucks a video, or a few bucks a month, your donation can help go a long way, and thanks for listening.